John, who's that person?
That's somebody logging in with DNA.
Oh, okay.
All right. We are live. I want to thank you for joining our webinar here with Greenbeery CEO, Sean Simmons. We are excited today to talk to you about a couple of different ways that you can own part of Greenbeery's. One is through franchising, and we have an exciting presentation prepared that'll focus in on that. And then also the other is through investing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just share a little bit about Sean, introduce him. I'm going to let him take it and do the meat of the presentation, and then we will have time for Q&A afterwards. So on your Zoom panel, there's a little Q&A bubble there at the bottom, and you can click that and type in your questions. We will hold all questions most likely until the end. So we'll let Sean finish his presentation, and then we'll have more interaction. We'll answer your questions that you have about Greenbeery's, about franchising, about investing. So anyway, I want to welcome everybody again. Thank you for taking time here, depending on where you're at, on a Friday afternoon to join us. And a little bit about Sean and Greenbeery's. Greenbeery's started 30 years ago, celebrated 30th anniversary just a few months back. Started by Sean and Roxanne Simmons. They were new to the coffee business 30 years ago, but most everybody was, with the exceptions of a handful of people. And some of the names you might know, Jamie Anderson, one of the very early pioneers in craft coffee in America. Jamie was a mentor, and is still, to my understanding, still mentors Sean and Roxanne 30 years later. Jamie introduced Sean and Roxanne to Alfred Peet. So if you know anything about coffee, Alfred Peet is the godfather of craft coffee in the United States. He started Peet's Coffee and Tea in the San Francisco Bay Area, and then he had 3 employees that wanted to go a little bit different direction that he trained, and they started Starbucks in Seattle. And then Alfred agreed to mentor Sean and Roxanne the first several years they were in business. So they spent time with Alfred out in California, as well as available remotely to teach Sean and Roxanne how to run a coffee business, and more importantly, how to roast and craft really delicious coffee. So Sean and Roxanne have excellent pedigree, starting off just in Charlottesville, but now they have a footprint in not just several states as Greenbeery's, but also several countries. And the countries, that's primarily through franchising, which we're going to talk about today, and opportunities there. So that's Sean. I do want to just real quick, before we hand off the baton, do have a little bit of a disclaimer because we are partnered with Start Engine for their investment platform. We do have some parameters of things that can and cannot be said as it relates to finances and forward-looking statements for the company and different things like that. Also, this webinar, it is a solicitation information about investing and about franchising, in which that there is inherent risk in all of those things. So we do have to give that little disclaimer before we get started. But with that, I'm going to hand it off to Sean, and what's going to happen, he's going to present for a little bit here, talking about the 2 ways you can own part of Greenbeery's. One is through franchising, one is through investing. And then we're going to spend some time at the end doing a Q&A. So Sean, I'll let you take it from here.
Great. Well, thank you very much, John. I appreciate that. As very nice introduction. And yeah, I mean, let me get one other disclaimer out of the way early on as well. We are going to be talking about the franchising side of our business, and anyone that's ever seen a franchise presentation knows what I'm going to say. But basically, anything we talk about today is informational, and if anyone is interested in a franchise, we make those offerings of franchise opportunities through our disclosure documents, and there's a process of application that goes along with that. So we're technically not offering a franchise to anyone today, but we're going to talk extensively about it and why I think it's a great opportunity, especially in the current environment. So we'll tie that in as well. But yeah, so today we will talk about Greenbeery's Coffee Roasters, which is on the Start Engine platform at startengine.com/coffee, I believe. Is that correct, John?
Yeah, that's correct.
Good. So if you are looking for us, it's that /coffee that'll get you there. And in addition to talking about that, we will focus on franchising. And before I start on that, just so everyone understands, Greenbery's is divided into a multitude of companies that I own, and they're all interrelated. And when you invest in Greenbery's on Start Engine, you're investing in our large central company, which is Greenbery's Coffee Roasters. Every time we open a franchise location domestically or internationally, it is Greenbery's Coffee Roasters that benefits substantially from that. So these are all interrelated. Growth with Greenbery's from any division or any different sector that we're in benefits all. So I just want to make sure everyone understands that interconnectivity between our companies and how that works. So with that, I will share my screen, and then I will bring up our presentation. John, is that showing up the way it should?
Yep, we are all set.
Okay, great. Anyway, so just a history lesson. As John said, I was taught the business by two of really the masters of gourmet coffee back in the 70s. These two gentlemen started, Alfred Peet and Jamie Anderson. Jamie is still a big part of our life and our family. He's a wonderful person, runs a great coffee business in Austin, Texas called Anderson's Coffee. So if you're ever in Austin, look him up. And Alfred Peet as well. The Peet story is a long history. The company's now in new hands, but been a very successful company. And I really think Greenbery's is a branch off their tree. The way we roast coffee, the way we source it, the taste profiles, really the way we go about doing the coffee itself is all really from Alfred Peet and what he taught me so many years ago. And someday when more time, I'll tell some of those stories because he was a very interesting fellow. So anyway, we started in 1992. And as John, as you mentioned, 1992 was 30 years ago, and such a different climate than we have today. I can say in 1992, Starbucks was a relatively unknown company on the West Coast. And they really hadn't made a name for themselves yet. And they were still 5 or 6 years away from really starting to make the national scene when we opened our doors. And early on, it was interesting because people knew what coffee was, but the whole idea of a coffee shop being a central part of a community in and of itself was somewhat of a new concept. And it was something that we were excited to do. And we really understood what we needed to do to be successful. And it was a matter of just getting the public on board. And after a couple of years, we really refined it into what you see today. Obviously, we've been through a number of changes and iterations over a 30-year time span, but it's been a tremendous opportunity. And I will say, you know, there's a lot of talk today about recession and all kinds of turmoil in the world. One great thing about coffee, I can't say that we are completely recession proof. I'm not sure anything necessarily is, but we are buffered quite a bit from recessionary pressures because a visit to a Greenbery's coffee shop overall is not an expensive endeavor. So it doesn't cost a lot of money. And coffee is something that we enjoy and consume pretty much every day. So if someone likes coffee, they're probably going to drink it every day. And the idea of getting together with your friends and talking and meeting and doing things in a coffee shop is also an endeavor that really a recession isn't going to hurt that much. So we've been through a number of downturns in our 30-year history. And I think that in terms of forward looking, you'll see that recessions don't have nearly as big an impact on us as they will certainly some higher end food purveyors and restaurants and whatnot. So, but anyway, so established in 1992. It was an exciting time. We are, as I've said, the coffee space, which is what anyone interested in investing in Greenbery's or in a franchise, is a very unique one in that coffee shops are and have always had high growth potential. We've been through different iterations in our industry over 30 years, but we're still seeing a tremendous interest in coffee shops, anything related to coffee. It's really such an integral part of the human existence. I don't think that's ever going to change. So the business itself has tremendous staying power and longevity, and I think that really helps. We're, I think, a well-positioned company in our industry. We've got 30 years of experience. The leadership and my management team have got tremendous experience in the industry. So I think that helps us tremendously. A coffee shop has the opportunity to be a very successful business for its owners if placed in the proper location and run properly. But there's just strong opportunity in the space itself. There's been, as any industry is going to have over 30 years, there's been various iterations that we've seen. We've had large companies like Starbucks obviously come into the space and dominate for about 15 years. We saw a lot of smaller companies fall by the wayside while they were excelling. We're really in a new space now where Starbucks is certainly there, but they're not as new or exciting as I think they once were. And a lot of people are really looking for those local and community-oriented offerings beyond the large companies. And I think that's where we fit in tremendously. So even though you've got a lot of support and success in Starbucks, which we want to see, I always say Starbucks is an important barometer for us. I want them to be successful, and I want them to do well because we share their space. But I think we are very different and unique in the way what we do and what we offer. Also with COVID, we've seen a real, unfortunately, a real shedding of some of the weaker offerings in the space. And this is true of all industries. People that went into COVID that were already a little bit weak probably aren't coming out the other side. And we'll talk about the numbers here a little bit, but a lot of coffee companies have not come out the other side of this pandemic. And again, I don't like to talk about failure for anyone. They're my coworkers in a way, but at the same time, there's going to be increased opportunity because there's more space for us to expand and grow. As I mentioned, about 7%. I suspect that number's higher now, but there are a lot of closures that have taken place in the industry, and I think that we're going to see more as we're now turning into these inflationary periods, as well as a potential downturn in the economy. If you're well positioned like us, we've got strong positions on our balance sheets. We look at this as a time of opportunity and a time that is a good time to move forward in franchising as well as on the investment side. And I'll go into more details about why I think right now is a very unique and good opportunity right now for Greenberries and anyone that's a part of our family and programs. Also, there's been a significant change in the largest company, Starbucks. If you have had Starbucks in your neighborhoods, you've probably noticed that they have shut down many of their stores that were in smaller strip shopping centers, and they're really replacing them with freestanding buildings with drive-throughs. Their growth seems to be committed nearly 100% to a drive-through model along major interstates and intersections. That also means that there's been a real pullback in some of the urban centers because they're not able to put in drive-throughs in those urban centers. And we're seeing even in our home area in Washington, D.C., where there's been a real pullback in the marketplace from them as they focus on their new strategy. But as I've said from the start, there's a lot of balls in the air, a lot of dynamics going on in the world. I believe there are tremendous opportunities just over the horizon, and we're starting to realize them right now. And we'll go through that in a little bit more detail. Coffee has always been a staple in human existence. And it's really one of the founding reasons why Roxanne and I went into the business. We wanted to be part of something that had that lasting staying power. And coffee really has such unique attributes. Again, most adults and now teenagers, which is a change from 30 years ago, will consume coffee or tea or some derivative of coffee and tea, however it's being presented. So our potential audience is tremendous, larger than most any other industry that you're going to see. In addition to that, the frequency of visit of our customers is something that really, if you are looking at a franchise in any food industry, one of the metrics that is very much discussed is the frequency of visit of your customer. What that really means in simple terms is how many times does a customer visit your restaurant or your cafe on a weekly or monthly basis? And I've been involved in various restaurant ventures in other industries where we measured that either once or twice a month or maybe once or twice a week. Coffee is extremely unique in that category. And this is something I mentioned to anyone who's a potential franchisee with us. The typical coffee cafe customer is visiting the store daily, on the order of 5 times a week. That is really incredible if you think about it. We see our customers every single day. And that gives tremendous brand loyalty. It gives tremendous continuity to the business. You don't have seasonality. You don't have those swings that go up and down as much. And I think that those are tremendous attributes when you think about owning a coffee cafe or investing in Greenberries. That strong bond between customer and Greenberries is there, and it's something that we've always had. I'm very proud of it. Again, a high-end restaurant might see a customer once a month. A mid-tier restaurant or a quick service restaurant might see their customer once or twice a week. We're seeing our customers on average almost every day. And I think that's something that gives you a very strong foundation for your business. It also lets you get to know your customers well and have that more personable relationship with your customer base, which again goes into what is a coffee cafe. Yes, we serve coffee, but it's that interaction between human beings and doing the things we do. And that interaction between my staff in the stores and our customers is extremely strong. They really know each other. They know what's going on in their lives and in the community. And that's the magic of owning a Greenbeery's coffee shop. I always like to talk about the other big growth avenue in the industry. And John and I have talked extensively about this. Cold brew came on the scene actually back in the 1970s initially, but it really didn't take off until about 6 or 7 years ago, where it had a second birth or a second resurgence. And we got on board with it early on, but really moved forward into the nitro cold brew, where we actually infuse nitrogen to give it some bubbles and fizz. And it really became the biggest product launch in our history. When we put it into our stores the first summer, it just took off, and it gave a tremendous bump in sales. And it was something new and very exciting. We've really embraced that as a company, and Greenbeery's Coffee Roasters is really one of the premier producers, I think, of the very best cold brew that is infused with nitrogen. And I'm very excited about what we're doing with it. I'm very excited about the growth potential, the growth that we're seeing right now. My sales team is having tremendous success. And that's part of every Greenbeery's franchise as well. If you own a Greenbeery's franchise, you will be serving these products in your store, both on tap as well as the cans in your cold case. So you'll have tremendous opportunity to take advantage of the growth opportunities in cold brew. And that really speaks to, again, an idea of franchising. When you buy a franchise, you believe in the franchisor and you believe in the concept and the market that you're going into. What you are expecting is that the franchisor will continue to provide you with cutting edge ideas, cutting edge new products, new ways of doing business, new ways of optimizing your success. That's really where the franchisor earns their keep in the relationship. And this is just one simple example of how we brought these products to market. And it's a tremendous benefit to everybody in the Greenbeery system and everyone that owns a Greenbeery store, whether it's domestic or international. As we've talked about, there is a shift that has taken place, and this is really, I think, exemplified by Starbucks. But the consumers have been really making a shift in their buying habits over the last, this goes back to me 6 or 7 years, where it really became strong. And it was really codified in the buy local movement, where you had so many people deciding that they wanted to buy and support their local companies more so than some large multinational corporations, for all the obvious reasons. I mean, supporting the local families and people that operate those local businesses, and just that a local business returns, really every dollar of profit gets returned back into the community that it operates in. And those themes were extremely popular for millennials, and I think it really caught on for generations beyond them. So I think you're seeing a real resurgence in interest in small to medium-sized regional companies, which is very much something that Greenbeery fits into. I mean, yes, we have a footprint overseas as well, but we really are a family-owned business that operates with a mindset of making that strong connection with the communities that we're in. And I think that we, no matter how much growth we enjoy, we'll never lose sight of that. I think it's critical. So the idea of keeping those coffee shops in each community local, feeling local the way we design them, is really a single most important attribute of what we do. Whether I'm talking to my people in the Middle East or Japan or anywhere in the US, one of the first things we talk about is what are some unique characteristics of the market, of the community that we're going into, and how can we take advantage of making those connections and really doing it. And sometimes it is changes in store design, sometimes it's changes in offerings of what we have, but we always make sure that, and really it's not being cookie cutter. It's every Greenbery's is recognizable, but every Greenbery's also very much recognizes and represents the community that it's in. So at the heart of it, we're still a coffee company. We have very delicious and exciting coffee products that we sell, but it's that connection to community that really matters. Greenbery's, from an investment standpoint, also, if you're not thinking franchising, really not only is the franchising growth model one area of growth for us, but as you see on this slide that I've put, the cafes are one piece of the puzzle. We sell products into the grocery store chains, into the C-store chains, restaurant chains, franchising. There are so many different areas that we sell products into, and it's really given us a tremendous opportunity for not only growth, but resiliency. If we have a downturn in the economy, some of the things on this chart might be affected, but others will benefit. So we've always had such a depth and breadth of opportunity in terms of what we sell and what we do. Something is always in vogue or really in a big growth mode at the time. And I think that broad depth of what we do separates us from most of our competitors, in fact. I think most of you have heard the story already, but obviously I have to give credit where credit's due. Roxanne, my wife, is my business partner. She is absolutely critical in everything we do. She really makes sure that we are, our attention to detail is what she would say is always there in all of the stores and every aspect of the business that we operate in. As I've said, we operate as a family business even today. My father came from a very large business venture and gave me tremendous mentoring skills about operating a business at scale and doing things as you should as you grow. But I think Roxanne also always helps keep us grounded in the most important aspects of running a small business mentality where it matters, which is that connection to your customers. I think it's crucial, and it's something that we will never lose. A little bit about our history. John mentioned Alfred, Pete, and Anderson's. Obviously, I give tremendous credit to those two gentlemen. They really were the beginnings of the coffee business in America. I really think that when it comes to gourmet coffee, these two gentlemen probably don't get enough credit, but they really were at ground zero of what has become a massive industry and a very successful industry. We've had tremendous success with partners like Whole Foods, and really the excitement of moving into international expansion as well. And one of the things we'll talk more about in franchising today is Greenbery's offers franchise opportunities domestically in the US, but we also offer opportunities overseas. We have a presence in the Middle East. We have a presence in Asia. I am speaking to some people in Canada right now. I think we have a very exciting opportunity that we'll be talking about shortly in Canada. So if you're overseas and you're interested in coffee, please give us a call, because the overseas markets are tremendous opportunities and an area that we're very good at and very interested in pursuing as well. We've also, as we've grown, put a bigger emphasis on selling products through partners that's outside of the cafes and outside of the franchising model. So our relationships with Costco and so many other big retailers that we're working with now, again, really expanded our reach in terms of our products and our branding. And that's going to continue to be a big growth area. And that really brought on the next piece, which was the cold brew and nitro cold brew. We're now a beverage company, ready to drink beverage company as well, which again has really broadened the appeal, I believe, of an investment in our company. We're really excited. I was actually out at our new facility yesterday. We just took delivery of our brand new coffee roaster. It's a 180 kilo machine, which is dramatically bigger than we've operated in the past. We should have that up and running within the next 30 days. And I'll send a short video clip soon of that in operation. It's a pretty impressive machine in terms of its size and scale and what it's able to accomplish. Today, just to give a sense of where are we, today we do have franchise stores domestically in Virginia, Maryland, DC. We have a store down in Louisiana. And the opportunities domestically, I think, are growing dramatically. And I think this is a good turning off point just to talk about this briefly. I believe, and I've mentioned this to so many people in our industry, that we are looking at one of the best opportunities for growth in franchise coffee business in our history. And the reason why is the coming together of several key factors. One is we are hearing in the news, and this is really a COVID issue, of the great resignation that's taking place. So many people, because of COVID, I believe, are rethinking their careers, they're rethinking their lives, and what they want to do and who they want to be. And when you have a big change like that, we saw that occur in the 1980s, and we had a tremendous boom in franchising in the 1980s. We are seeing a form of that happening again today. And I am seeing a tremendous uptick in interest in franchising. Our phones are ringing and our emails are coming in at a much higher clip than we've seen in the last 5 or 6 years. And I believe, again, it is people rethinking what they want to do with their lives, what they want to do with their careers. And it's very real. And I think it's going to continue for some time. And I do think it was spurred by COVID. And I think it's a good thing. I think people are making decisions that are good for them and their families. So I expect a big uptick in people interest in franchising of all kinds, not just Greenberry's. And I think when you look at a variety of franchises, for some of the things I've already talked about, I think a coffee cafe is a wonderful opportunity in terms of a business that is not overly complex. It is something that I can teach most anyone to do successfully. But the key is it's a business that has that such broad appeal to the customer base. And so I think that gives a lot of opportunity for that. The other opportunities that are happening right now are, with a downturn in the economy that's expected right now, you will see the cost of developing stores will go down. Construction costs will go down as the economy slows. The cost of money should, over time, hopefully become a little bit easier to get for people that are looking for financing options. And then you will also see more location opportunities. One of the key things in a franchise model is you have to find and secure a location for your cafe. Because we had a number of locations go out of business during COVID, that opened up opportunities for us. You're now also going to see, with a slowdown in the economy, more retail spaces coming onto the market and available. And we're actually seeing second and third generation coffee spaces that are ideal for putting a Greenberry's into. And when we see those, that reduces the overall cost of development of a store. If we can move into where there was a formerly successful coffee shop, our development costs are cut down dramatically. So I really see the changing of people's careers and attitudes about what they're doing, the opportunities for securing real estate, improving. These are all coming together in a way that I think that as we come out of this difficult time, and most financial experts will tell us that the typical recession lasts around 2 years. So I think as we come out of this difficult time, we are going to be very poised and set for tremendous growth, because we can put those elements of growth into place today by working relationships with new franchisees and getting their stores located, getting them built, and getting them ready to open. So I think we've got tremendous opportunity ahead, and it's something I like to make sure everyone understands as well. Also, when you're thinking about franchising, again, I always want to flip to the other side. If you're interested in investing in Greenberries through Start Engine, startengine.com/coffee, you will take advantage of the scale and the opportunities that this future franchise growth is going to offer. Because every time we open a new store, Greenberry's Coffee Roasters has a new dedicated customer that we will sell all the products into. And that is a very good relationship. And every time any part of my company grows, the other companies grow with it. And the product distribution that Roasters offers benefits greatly from growth in the franchising model. Move on here. The franchising system itself, I think, is very well-rounded. And I'm sure we'll get some questions about this, but we take great pride in the care and attention that we put to the franchise model. And I'll just run through very quickly the way it works. And this is obviously in a nutshell, but if you are interested in buying a Greenberries, we go through a process of interviewing and discussing the opportunity back and forth between the prospect and the company. We want to make sure that there's a good fit, not only but for Greenberries, but also the person that's going to buy the franchise, that they understand what it takes to operate a small business in the coffee space, that they understand the attributes of ownership and what's involved in it from a lifestyle standpoint. So we're very careful to make sure that there's a good fit there. Then I'll obviously want to make sure that the financials are in place, that someone has the money to do it properly and not be undercapitalized, which obviously is a big issue with new startups. Once we achieve that and we get a franchise agreement in place, then the next aspect of the development cycle is the real estate and the location search. The franchisee will have told us the market that they wish to open a store in. We will have hired real estate experts to help us locate potential opportunities in terms of real estate. We vet those, we go through them, we cull them down until we have usually 2 or 3 actionable sites, and then we negotiate hard for the best site from those 3 for a first location. That's a process that we really lead the franchisee through. We have all of the technical aspects of how that's done for our location criteria. Once we complete that process, the next step is the store design and store construction. And that process is, again, very streamlined. We have generally at any given moment, we have 2 different store decor packages that we offer. Those packages, the franchisee can select which one they think is more suitable for themselves in their marketplace. Within each package, there are options in terms of what you're going to serve and what you're going to sell in your store. And we go through many of those options. And we come up with a store design that everyone is very pleased with and we think fits the marketplace we're going into. Then we assist the franchisee with locating a contractor and going through the bidding process and selecting someone that will bring the project in on budget and on time. And then the excitement starts. While the store is under construction, the franchisee and their team are going to come to Charlottesville, Virginia for about 3 weeks of very intense training. The training is divided into 3 major categories, which are being a barista and operating the store at the employee level, operating the kitchen. Those are all kind of hand in hand and go together. And then the second phase of the training are what we call management principles, where we're going to really focus on what a manager of the business will be doing on a day-to-day basis and what metrics and things they need to pay attention to as a manager of the business. And then the last phase of training is what I call ownership principles, where we're really focusing and training a prospective franchisee on how to own and operate your own small business within the coffee space, because being the owner is a different hat than being an employee or being a manager. And so we talk a lot about financial statements and proper governance and controls in the operation of your small business to be successful. Once we go through that training, which I think is the most fun and exciting part of what we're doing in the development phase, then we go back, get the store open. I then send and deploy an opening team to the new location where we will train the staff of people that are going to be involved in the new store. We do all of the training for the franchisees so they don't have to. Once the store is trained up, ready to open, we will do a soft opening. And this process of opening from training through soft opening is about 2 weeks, where my team is on site every day and making sure everything is ready to go, testing the equipment and making sure the staff is ready. Then we do a soft opening. A soft opening is defined in our industry as open the doors, but don't promote the business, because we have a new staff and a new store, and we don't want them to be overwhelmed while we're really kind of getting ourselves the experience we need on a daily basis. The soft opening phase will last anywhere from 1 to 3 weeks, where we're getting everyone up to speed. The store is cycling through its daily routines so that everyone gets their experience in place. Then the big final phase of the opening procedures is the grand opening event, which we, again, will set somewhere between 3 to 4 weeks out from the soft opening. And a grand opening is where we really, we're going for everything at that point. We get all of our social media and marketing activities going full-fledged. And the idea is over typically a Friday and a Saturday, we have a 2-day grand opening event where we are just bringing a tremendous amount of people into the store, and it's creating tremendous excitement in the community about this new business that is now part of the community. And we hope to become the center of that community. And that key, the key idea of the grand opening is to create the buzz and the awareness and the excitement about the business. We're very good at that, and we've had tremendous turnout. I'll never forget when we did our first grand opening in Japan. We had a line out the door of the store, and literally it went around a full city block, and it didn't stop all day long. And again, it's just an idea of what we accomplish with these grand openings. So it's very exciting. But in a nutshell, and that's very condensed, that is the process that one goes through. It typically takes anywhere from 4 to 6 months to go through the entire process. It can take longer or shorter, with the key being the location and how quickly we acquire the real estate. But once we have that, the rest of it is very measurable, and we will know exactly when we're expecting to open. The grand opening, as I've said, is, I think, at the crux of what we do. There's actually a very nice picture here when we did our grand opening, our ribbon cutting in Japan. It was a tremendous day because it was such a new opportunity in Japan. Which is although it's a very different market, it shares all the same attributes that we see in the US. But it's finding that location, having that grand opening is really the culmination of everyone's hard work and effort in getting the store open. And I very fondly remember that day. It was a very exciting day. We've talked about the phases of training. I've really kind of preempted this a bit. I'll be happy to answer any detailed questions about the support package that we offer, because I think that is the core of any franchise relationship. And it's really what you're spending your money on, is to get that experience and that knowledge and the how-to for any franchise that you're considering. So I think you always want to really evaluate any franchisor on how good its package is of getting people to the opening day. Talked about the soft opening and the grand opening. Again, this was another opportunity. This picture was in McLean, Virginia. That's a very well-loved store that actually started as a company store and then later on transitioned into a franchise store. Actually, the franchisee was my manager at the time, and she ended up buying the store. So that was a very exciting and personable experience. Really, the ongoing support is something that I think is also very important in a franchise relationship. You want to make sure your franchisor is with you for the long haul. And really for us, we dedicate our franchise coordinator to every location. That is your conduit of information flow back and forth. And I think that's critical for the ability for us to introduce new ideas and concepts into stores. the ability for those new ideas and concepts to flow up to us from the field. Many of the best ideas have come from the franchise stores, and we need to have our ears wide open, listening and looking for those opportunities. So really that relationship back and forth is critical. It's one that Roxanne and I think is really probably the most important thing in terms of a relationship ongoing between a franchisee and a franchisor. We do quarterly reviews of every store. Those reviews I think are very important because I'm sending people into a store to evaluate how it's operating and its success. And we want to give a very detailed report to the owners. And from that report, we also want to train any deficiencies that were found to make sure that the store is operating at the best it can be. And I think those reviews and those visits are a key to making sure that the stores are all operating at their peak. So really kind of to surmise the franchising side of this a little bit is coffee is a perennial booming industry. It's been popular with humans going back hundreds of years in different forms, but in the modern version of the coffee shop, I think Greenbery's approach to it is second to none. I think the quality of our products, I think the appeal of our stores and from the physical aspects of them, their connections with community really puts us in that sweet spot in our industry, because other people in the industry might have a good coffee, but they may not have a very good store decor. And I think it's having all of those legs of the stool, as I sometimes say in an analogy, are there and strong to support the business. I think that if you're thinking about investing in Greenberry's as the company, I think always remember it's the vertical integration of our three companies and how they all work together. Greenbery's Coffee Roasters is at the center of all of that, and it is the one that always benefits from any growth of any sector of what we do. And that's why I think it is the heart and soul of our company, and that's the place to invest money. It's where the investment has the best opportunities because of so many growth opportunities that it presents itself. We're a very established brand. As I've said, we've been around for 30 years. We're not new at this, and the experience that we have on our management team and the 30 years of experience collectively is very important. I like to say to franchisees, you're going to have lots of new ideas as you get into this. The good news is many of those ideas in our 30 years, we've probably tried and we have had experience with them. And if they were successful, they were integrated into our system. If they were not successful, I'll do my best to explain why. And we can still decide if maybe it was just a timing issue and the idea needs to be tried again, or maybe I can convince them that there are other ideas we should try instead. So I think that 30 years of experience is invaluable. And if you look at us as a franchisor, I think our history and our time doing what we're doing is critical as well. Again, today our focus is really two sides of the same coin. One is you can invest in Greenberry's by investing in a franchise and opening and operating a Greenberry's Cafe in your hometown. And we do single unit franchises. We also do multi-unit franchises. If you are someone that owns a restaurant business and you have multiple concepts and you're looking for another concept to add to your portfolio and you don't have coffee, we would love to talk to you as well. But whether it's a single franchisee or a multi-unit operator, we're very well established to work with both types of groups. If you're interested in investing in Greenberry's as the company, again, Start Engine is a tremendous opportunity to do that. The entry-level investments are quite low if you want to get started with us. And we have various tiers of perks and benefits if you want to increase the investment over time. And again, that's startengine.com/coffee. I think it's very easy to find us on there. And we're very excited with what we're doing with Start Engine. It's our second round with them. So John, I think I'm getting near the end here. If there's any questions, we can certainly dive into those. Here's the team.
Yeah,
I always
great.
like to throw the team up. John's on there as well. But we've got a tremendous team. There are obviously many more people behind these folks, but these are my my lieutenants and my important parts of the team. And here we are with our contact information. So I will pull away from that. And John, what did I forget? Anything in particular that I may not have touched on you want to throw out there?
No, Sean, I think you covered most of the bases. We did have a number of good questions come in, and we're going to try to get to all of them, or at least as many as we can for the remainder of the time. So I'll go through that. I do want to clarify one thing. You did say at one point during your presentation that a bunch of locations closed down during COVID. I just want to clarify, those were not Greenbery's locations.
No, that's correct.
Greenbery's was very well positioned and able to kind of batten down the hatches and then come out COVID on the other side.
Yeah, that's correct. We actually, just to be accurate with that, we actually did not lose any locations during COVID.
Yeah, so that's great. And one of the things, Sean, I don't think you really hit on that I'll just add to is that Greenbery's is a very sound company financially. That Sean and Roxanne have very financially, fiscally, very conservative business principles that really set them up well to weather a couple big things. One would be kind of like the Sean, I think you referred to it as the Starbucks Armageddon, when Starbucks true. Just there was a Starbucks on every street corner and a Starbucks across the street on the same corner.
There was.
So kind of weathering that as a company, and then of course multiple recessions in the last 30 years, and then this most recent with COVID, which unfortunately Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, some of your larger coffee brands, those are the largest two, they didn't really lose a lot of stores. They're publicly traded. They have access to a lot of capital. What closed, so that statistic that we threw up of in 2020 alone, over 7% of coffee shops closed. Those were small, local, and regional coffee shops, and really a loss for communities because, Dunkin' has always been drive-through focused. Starbucks is moving that way and kind of retrofitting a lot of their stores, a lot of the new stores. They're kiosk only, they're drive-through only, so they're not really community gathering places, or that third place, as we like to call it. That place that's not home, it's not work, but you meet there to gather. And that's where you might meet a friend. That's where you might go to do some additional work, remote work, have a meeting, have an appointment, go study. So that third place, Starbucks held the claim to that really in the United States for 20 years. I mean, that was, Howard Schultz. I mean, that was one of his big.
Yeah, I think they actually, I think that tagline was theirs. I think that came from them initially. Third place.
Yeah. And their business model, they're moving away from that very aggressively. Yes. From everything we've seen. So again, unfortunately, most of the coffee shops that closed were those small, local or regionally run coffee shops. Greenbery's very sound financially going into that, was able to weather that and come out on the other side, and also keep the vast majority of all the employees employed as well, which is a big thing. So so yeah, I just wanted to clarify that one point. So just a few questions. I'm going to start with the franchise questions because that's what the brunt of the presentation was on. So this question, I'm going to add my 2 cents in on this. I think you covered it pretty well. It came in fairly early, but what sets Greenbery's apart from the competition from a customer vantage point? So I know we talked about more on the side of if you're going to own a Greenbery's business. What sets Greenbery's apart, but the average customer that's going to walk into the store, why would they do that instead of, Starbucks or maybe some other competitors? And I have, I'll jump in and I'll answer just kind of from my vantage point. So I'm kind of a little bit on the fringe of millennial. I'm on the older spectrum of millennial, but my wife and I, when we travel, and then also just locally, we avoid Starbucks like the plague. That sounds extreme, but in all seriousness, if we can't find a local or regional coffee shop to go to when we're traveling or things like that, we'll just go grab a canned coffee from the local supermarket and then be on with it. We like it. It's not just. I mean, my wife actually likes the taste of Starbucks. I personally do not, but it's more, Sean, you hit on this during the presentation, that millennials in particular, Gen Z, it's even more, we really like to support, somebody that's not like the Fortune 50 company. And also, I mean, I think there's a difference, by and large. This isn't always the case, and I've had very positive experiences historically at Starbucks. But I also think there's a difference in the service and the feel when you walk into a local or regional coffee shop that's family owned or operated, or might be one of a number, maybe a few dozen locations. I mean, that's a very different feel, welcoming atmosphere. So anyway, that's from my vantage point. But Sean, I don't know if there's anything more you want to add on top of that from your.
Yeah, and you touched on a few things that I think are very important. Starbucks, during its growth phase, had a very strong brand loyalty and awareness. I mean, they were at the level that few companies achieve. Apple's another company that did this, but they almost had a cult-like following in the consumer base. They could do no wrong. And during those years, the employees that worked at Starbucks really felt a specialness to the movement and really what they were a part of. And I think Starbucks excelled at the third place at that time. They've lost that. Now they're having issues with disgruntled employees. They're having challenges with labor disputes and stuff. But really, and it's not unusual, but Starbucks lost that magic, and they've become much more of a commodity. And yes, they are. And I never put down success. I think Starbucks is a tremendously successful company, and I want them to be. But they are a company that is focused on growth, and they are focused on shareholder value, and they are focused on things that are not really the magic of what happens in a community coffee shop. And I think they've lost that. I don't know if you've noticed this, John, but I walk into any Starbucks, they no longer feel friendly and personable. They feel like a place to just get a coffee and go. So I think to answer your original question, it is the franchise model means that there is an owner very close to every Greenberry's that's operating. So someone who is both a part of their local community and cares deeply about the interaction every day in their store is crucial. So I think that we've decided to use franchising as a growth model ensures that we have that close connection of ownership to the community and the connection with the community. So that, I think that's key. On top of that, I think that if you just look at the quality of what we sell, whether it's the food, the breakfast, the lunch, the pastries, the coffee, beverages, I think they are vastly superior to most anyone out there in the depth of the offerings, as well as the quality of what we do. A customer that comes in every day needs to know the people in their coffee shop, have a good relationship with them, and the products they get should be consistently good every day. And that's just a core principle. And I think we have that in spades.
Yeah, absolutely. So we got a couple other questions I'm gonna answer quickly, just for time, so we can hopefully get to a few more questions. We had a lot of questions come in when we opened the Q&A. So I've been trying to answer a couple of those in real time. So one of the questions is, as a franchisee, would you have to roast on site? And the answer to that is no. Greenbery's handles all the roasting for all the products, and all the different other, not 100%, but most of the food service items, the machinery you need to actually operate the Greenbery's, all of those things are handled by Greenbery's at the corporate level in terms of getting you the supplies and things that you need. Sean, did I hit that accurately?
Yeah, yes, that's correct. Yeah, you would not be roasting in store. When you put a coffee roaster in a coffee shop, it dramatically changes the ambiance, and it really detracts from the customer's enjoyment of the space. I know in some cases, some coffee shops have very small roasters. It's almost a gimmick. But if you want to really have the best coffee shop experience, you do not want a coffee roaster in there.
Yeah, and I'll second that. I mean, I know a lot of folks like that, especially younger millennial Gen Z. But me personally, if I'm going somewhere to have a meeting or catch up on a little bit of work, or even like take my daughter for lunch dates, it's not something that's really helpful. I end up wearing headphones, and it's just not anyway.
Yeah,
so I'll
and
second that. The other question.
And in today's world, if you really want to see an in-depth process of coffee roasting, you can look at some videos that we've got posted over time, and plenty of other people on YouTube. You can dive deeply into how coffee's roasted. But again, this goes back to one of those things I talked about, where franchisees will ask a question like this, should I have a coffee roaster? And from our 30 years of experience, we know that it is a distraction from success of the individual store.
Mm-hmm. The other question that I think I can answer real quick is are drive-throughs required? And the answer to that is no. And that's one of the things. So the trend with largest coffee, so again, Starbucks, Dunkin', is to have stores that don't even have sit-down cafes. So that's the trend for the largest companies. But the opportunity that is creating by there just being less and less actual cafes is very good. Now, that doesn't mean that we would not recommend you have a space with a drive-through. That's a great, especially with Uber Eats and DoorDash and all these other opportunities, having a drive-through absolutely is a phenomenal way to increase profit at a store, to increase revenues, but that is not a requirement.
Correct.
So, all right. So, drive-through question. Sean, I think we only have just 2 or 3 more minutes allotted for the webinar.
Okay.
I'm gonna, and I got several other questions. What we're gonna do, several folks had some questions that we didn't get to respond. So we're gonna get an email out, and several folks, we're gonna send you an email response. But one thing I think, Sean, if you could just touch on briefly, and I don't know how briefly you could do this, could you give a scope of, so this is actually 3 questions I'm going to try to hit on really quick.
Yep, sure.
You mentioned different sizes of franchises. So on the low end, what's kind of a smaller all-in cost for a franchisee? And then on the high end, looking at single store, what's kind of all-in cost for a franchisee? So what's the spectrum? And I know that can vary a lot, but it just kind of gives people a little bit of the scope. And then second thing is if you're able to just touch on real quick any type of just general franchise fees, so people can understand that a little bit.
Yeah, well, and very quickly I'll roll through those. Franchise opportunities can go from really a smaller kiosk footprint to a full-blown large-scale store with full menus. Your investment range there, and as you've said, this varies wildly, and these are just ranges, can be anywhere from $100,000 on the low side to topping $350,000 on the high side. The fee structures are really, there's a couple of important fees there. The franchise fee for a single unit is $36,500. That's really what funds all of the activities I described earlier in the webinar. We have a 5% royalty and a 1% advertising royalty. So you will pay Greenberry's 6 cents on every dollar of sales that you have. But again, that helps fund all the activities that I described in the webinar.
All right, that sounds great. We did have, I'm going to answer, I guess we got a couple more questions I'm going to try to answer real quick. So we got the fee structure, that was one of the questions. Let's answer one investor question that's here, that's at the top of the list, and then I'm going to answer another one. So the question is, if you're investing in Greenbeery through Start Engine, and you're also investing in the franchises, and the answer to that is not directly, but kind of. And here's what that means: that when you're investing on Start Engine and actually buying shares in Greenberry's, you're investing in the largest company in the Greenberry's family, which is Greenberry's Coffee Roasters. And Greenberry's Coffee Roasters is what all the canning, all the distribution of food service items that go to the franchises, every bean of coffee that gets sourced and roasted that goes to the franchises. All that comes through roasters. So the majority of what gets sold in a franchise funnels through roasters or gets produced by roasters. And roasters, Greenbeery's Coffee Roasters, is the company you're investing in Start Engine. So you're not investing in the franchises directly with your investment, but you are benefiting from the growth of franchises in the network, because that means there's going to be more volume of coffee roasted. There's going to be more RTD canned RTDs, cold brews sold. There's going to be more food service and food service equipment that is sold to the franchisees, and all that comes through roasters. So the other question that we have is Sean, on investing, when somebody invests in Start Engine, will they receive annual financials, or how does that work once they become an investor? Do you know, is that something that's handled completely through Start Engine, or is that something that we would be in the middle of at Greenberry's and providing that for investors?
Yeah, Greenberry's will issue an annual report every year, and that annual report will give a summary of our business operations and will entail the types of things that you're looking for in that question. So yes, typically every July or August, we will be issuing our annual report, and that is something that investors will have access to.
Okay, that's great. All right, we are over our allotted time. So two things. I'm just going to real quick, Sean, share the kind of next steps screen here. Let me pull that up. Let's see. We're on Start Engine. So if you're interested in investing, startengine.com/coffee is where to go. And then if you're interested in franchising, it's greenberries.com/franchise. We're going to send this out in a follow-up email, so you'll have it. It's also in the chat at the top, and we tried to pepper it into the talk. So again, franchising, this form will go directly to our director of franchising, Julia, as well as Sean. So when you fill this out, you're going to be right in touch with them. So if you're interested in learning more about franchising and going deeper into the numbers and deeper into the opportunity, fill out this form, greenberries.com/franchise. If you're interested in investing and owning, we talked about a lot of major trends in coffee and where Greenberry's is going, very well positioned to take advantage of a lot of opportunities. Go to startengine.com/coffee. And again, we'll send a follow-up email with these links as well. Really appreciate all the great questions. Sorry we didn't get to all of them. We tried to answer as many as we could, but we can also answer those via a direct email if you fill out one of these forms. We're happy to help follow up there as well. So again, want to thank everybody for coming. Sean, I'll let you thank everybody, and then we'll sign off.
Well, I certainly do appreciate everyone coming today, and I know this will be rebroadcast several times. So, and yeah, please, whether it's comments on the Start Engine page or emails to Greenberry's, we want to hear from you. And if you've ever had any interest at all in possibly owning your own business or owning your own coffee cafe, I think we'd be a tremendous partner and would love to work with you, and would look forward to hearing from you. And thank you very much for spending your time with us today.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Have a good weekend.
All right. Bye-bye.